What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods here, coming back at y'all with another 2-minute drill episode. Wednesday, March 12th, man, middle of the week. It is hump day, so make sure I'm glad y'all are tuning in to help us, tuning into us to help you get through your week. But, guys, we gotta, it's probably gonna be a longer episode just because it's a bigger topic, but it's one that I think a lot of our listeners are going to be interested in. But before we get into that, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Enter yourself into the 200 subscriber giveaway that is almost wrapping up, man. Y'all got us at almost 170 something subscribers, so it's bound to happen soon. So make sure to enter yourself to get an awesome merch bundle. Our 100 subscribers should be getting theirs pretty soon. And so I can't wait to show off the awesome merch that you guys are missing out on, and can't wait to eventually launch our merch line. So we appreciate all the support, man, here on the 2-minute drill. But let's get into it. So our storyline today is actually going to be, what are the expectations for the new SEC coaches? So I'm probably going to make this, a recurring thing where we kind of go through the Power 5 conferences and talk about expectations for new head coaches. So when I do this, I want to give them, so I'm going to give each coach a motto. So a motto for season. What should they be telling their team? What should their goal be this season? I also have a list of key games for each coach that is going to be very, very important to win and or be competitive in. And then I'm going to give my prediction on kind of how I see the season go as of May 12th. And a lot can change from now until the beginning of the season, and when we start giving our official predictions later on in the year. But without further ado, man, let's get right into it. Lee Vanderbilt, he comes in from Notre Dame after helping the Fighting Irish make a playoff run, an ACC championship appearance, and he takes over a Vandy team, man, who was 0-9 last year. They decided to let Derek Mason go during the season. And this is a program that hasn't had a winning record. I mean, forget competing, forget, what bowl games, all that. I mean, this is a team that has not had a winning record since 2013. And they made two bowls since 2014, but they lost both of them, sadly, under Mason. But for their motto, man, it was kind of hard. What kind of motto do you give Vandy when you're looking at the talent deficit that we see between Vandy and the SEC? Their motto for me is just compete. And what I mean by just compete is, in the SEC, you just have to show some sort of progress, some sort of fight. Playing in the SEC as Vanderbilt is probably one of the biggest talent deficits that we have ever seen across this country. The expectations should be tailored for a new head coach coming into this situation. This past year actually was the first winless season in program history. So that shows you what type of low note Vanderbilt is really on right now. And, I look at what happened last year. They had 3 games. Texas A&M, it was a 5-point game. Mississippi State was 7, and Kentucky was a 3-point game. Those 3 games were 1-score games, and if Vanderbilt wins 1 or 2 of those, it could go a long way into offering some hope for a fan base that has been checked out for multiple years. And so I think for me is taking these close games and turning one into a win, or having more close games where it's like, okay, we lost 6 by 1 possession, but now this new head coach gets his staff in, gets his recruits in, and now we're better off in the long run. And I think that's kind of what we have to go with right now. My opinion, I think this is the only new head coach that can go winless in the SEC in his first season and still have a successful season. This hinges on how competitive they can be against those lower to mid-tier SEC teams. This isn't necessarily all my key games or, my specific key games, but South Carolina, Mississippi State, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, all these teams that they find on their schedule that are in this group of teams, they have to be competitive in those games. They got to be competitive. Vandy needs to offer some sort of evidence that they are not just completely outmatched by everyone in the conference. I'm talking about these games have to be within probably like 15 points at the end. Vandy's got to keep it close, and that we come away from the game being like, man, Vandy had a chance to win that one. And, looking at the key games for, for Vandy this year, I look at four in particular, I think are going to be the biggest games on the schedule. And it's Colorado State week 2, it's Stanford week 3, UConn week 5, and South Carolina week 7. I think those are the four most important games for the Commodores this year. And I picked them, and I understand most are out of conference. But the reason all those out of conference games are on here is because Vandy has to win one or two of these to really kind of put that new fresh foot forward and offer some hope to the fan base in this first year. I get it. Vandy has an in-conference talent deficit, but they should be able to not only compete, but have real chances to win against programs like UConn and Colorado State. These will give just like those handful of wins. It's like, okay, at least we didn't go winless. Like, yeah, we aren't competing with whoever you want to put up there, the Ole Misses, the Georgias, the Florida. I mean, the I guess top of the SEC, but it will somewhat kind of give like just like, okay, we can beat those teams we're supposed to beat. And now the next step is kind of catching up to the rest of the pack. South Carolina, the reason I picked this specific conference game is because this is the battle of new head coaches. This is where Lee could kind of really flex some muscle, pull a win out, and then it will offer a lot of momentum toward the future. Now, I'm looking at the schedule. I'm going through the games. I think my prediction for the year was 3-9. I think they get three out of conference wins, and I think they might probably. I think as of right now, they'll probably go winless in the SEC. But I still don't hate that record for a first-year head coach at Vanderbilt. So let me know what y'all think Vanderbilt's potential is in their first year under Clark, and kind of let me know what y'all's expectations are as Vandy fans if you're on this video for the program as a whole right now. The next coach, man, it's going to be an interesting one. We got Shane Beamer. This is a guy who is coming in after Will Muschamp, and he's coming in like he was let go mid-season. Some real program struggles over the past few seasons. The 2-8 record last year was the worst record in South Carolina since 1999 under Lou Holtz, and I believe it was his first season. They only had 2 winning seasons under Muschamp, and so this program's in a little bit of turmoil. And so the motto for me is fight for a bowl berth. South Carolina has not made a bowl since 2018 and has not won a bowl since 2017, Outback Bowl under Muschamp. And I get it. This team lost a lot of transfers, a lot of talent, but the goal every year here at minimum should be at least let's get to a bowl game. Now, it should eventually be let's win that bowl game over a decent team. But right now, in the first year, it should be just get us in the door. And the main thing here to achieve this is to avoid the upsets that shouldn't happen. Muschamp failed to do so, and I think the culmination, the pinnacle of all that was that Appalachian State loss in 2019 where, it's kind of weird. South Carolina was outclassed by Appalachian State, which doesn't even sound right, but it happened. And so when I'm looking at the schedule, I got 3 games that really stick out to me. Tennessee week 6, Missouri week 11, and Auburn week 12. These games have a lot in common because Tennessee and Auburn will also be breaking in new guys at the helm, and these 2 games could decide which coach really puts his best foot forward and which coach finds themselves failing to meet new expectations and kind of already behind the 8 ball. And also, there's this idea that Tennessee and Auburn are, higher tier programs with South Carolina, and that in South Carolina winning one or both of these games could go a long way in securing that bowl bid in their season and kind of trying to reestablish the heights of the program that we once saw. And Missouri, the reason I picked them is that they're going to be right there with South Carolina in the middle of the SEC East, fighting for that bowl bid, fighting for prestige in bowl bids. They're going to compete for the same kind of level of bowl bid, and they're going to be competing for where South Carolina needs to be right now. And so this could be the gateway to bowl season, or it could be the gateway to real trouble in the year one of the Beamer era under Shane Beamer. So looking at the schedule, kind of analyzing the wins, I see a 5-7 year. So I think it could go, as high as 7-5. I think it could be as bad as 3-9 if everything goes wrong. But I think 5-7 right now is kind of where South Carolina's going to be. So a little bit below where they need to be. But the schedule is just so tough, man. And the fact that they draw Auburn from the West, and the fact that you still got to play Florida, you still got to play Georgia. I think South Carolina is going to have a little bit of trouble this year, but if Beamer can get to 6-6, I give them an A year one in South Carolina right now. And so let's move on. Another East contender, man. Another one here in Tennessee. Josh Heupel coming in from UCF, 28-8 there in 3 years, 3 straight bowl appearances, and a New Year's 6 appearance in 2018. He takes over for Jeremy Pruitt, who was let go this offseason. A series of scandals, NCAA accusations were levied against the program. They just cleared all the house. And Tennessee's coming off their first 3-win season since 1924, guys. And it's the worst overall record, since 2017, when Butch Jones and Brady Hoke, were the two coaches. Hoke ended up kind of replacing Butch as he got let go mid-season. But the motto for me here for Heupel and the Volunteers is avoid disaster. I know it sounds grim. It seems like, man, you're not giving them much credit. Listen, Tennessee, out of all the 4 coaches and the programs we're going to talk about today, Tennessee lost the most talent of any of these SEC teams due to transfers. And because the experience, incoming freshmen, and almost everyone who contributed to this team is now gone, I think Heupel's going to be at the biggest disadvantage, especially year one. Let me just listen to some of these names that are now elsewhere. Jared Garantano, Eric Gray, Todd Chandler, Brandon Johnson, Wanaya Morris, Emmett Gooden, Henry Toto, Quavarius Crouch, DeAndre Johnson, Key Lawrence, and then you lose a borderline 5-star in Dylan Brooks to Auburn. I mean, these are just a few names that they lost from the program. I mean, they lost something close to like 30 kids from that team. So for me, when I look at this season, the main goal of this year is just to avoid an absolute disaster. I'm thinking of like a winless SEC season, a 2 or 3 win season that could just continue the disastrous slide and the disastrous after effect of the accusations. And we've seen programs involved in these scandals just take that nosedive. And Tennessee's going to have to beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. And they may just they're going to have to they're just going to have to rely on being competitive against teams that are at or just above their level. They're going to have to try to upset a person here, a person there. When I look at the schedule now, I mean, the key games, guys, are going to be Pitt week 2. Pitt is going to be a huge one. Ole Miss week 7 and Kentucky week 10 for me. So these are the 3 games that are going to, kind of shift the season one way or another. But I honestly think out of all the games we talk about today on this episode, I think this week 2 game against Pitt could be the turning point for this Vols team, because a loss here could be an absolute momentum killer for this program, because starting 2-1 was, it's not a bad start, but then you look past that 3rd game and 5 straight SEC games lie ahead that include road trips to Florida and Alabama. They're going to have to, if they can get to 3-0, they could be in a very, very good position to make a bowl push and to make a push into that middle group of SEC East programs. Ole Miss and Kentucky. That's, Those are the other two games. The reason I picked these is because these are going to be key measuring sticks to where this program really is at right now. These two games could be the difference in a 4-8 season, a 3-9 season, and like a 6-6, 7-5 type season in a bowl appearance, which would be an A plus for Heupel in his first year. But when I look at the schedule, I break down the wins. I kind of look at what Tennessee has and doesn't have. I really just kind of see a 5-7 season, just like we saw for South Carolina. I think it could be 4-8 to 7-5, but I think 5-7 right now is kind of where I see them. But we're going to see, you know, what transpires over the summer. Hendon Hooker is a great pickup at quarterback. So if he clicks, then I think Tennessee could really and truly surprise a lot of people with how they play this year. They're going to have to find a lot of people to replace who they lost. So that's going to be the biggest thing for me. Now, the last coach. This one's a little personal. Y'all see the jerseys in the background. Y'all see the hoodie. I mean, if you've been rocking with the Blue Bloods, I am an Auburn guy, but try to keep it unbiased on the podcast. But Brian Harsin, man, leaving his alma mater, Boise State, after 7 seasons, 3 Mountain West championships, he's taken over Gus Malzahn. After a 6-5 season, Gus was let go after the Mississippi State game, last game of the season. Kevin Steele coached in the bowl game. 6 wins was the fewest since 2012, which was Gene Chiswick's last season before Malzahn took over the program. And before that, it was Tommy Tuberville's last season on his way out. The motto for Auburn is difficult because the expectations are kind of all over the place. It's kind of like, okay, what are we going to do? What are we like realistically trying to expect from Brian Harsin? The number one thing for me, and now I'm coming at this from like not only a fan but an analyst direction. I think the motto needs to be find an offensive identity. That would be kind of find that offensive identity, because that has been a source of frustration since the end of the 2014 season for Auburn fans. Ever since Nick Marshall left campus, there has been a lack of offensive identity at the quarterback position, as a scheme, and the lack of offensive line execution and talent. You look at the quarterbacks: Jeremy Johnson, Sean White, Jared Stidham, Bo Nix. You even had John Franklin III for a bit. All of these guys have taken shots at the QB1 spot, and a lot of them have been underwhelming. Jared Stidham had his moments in 2018, but when he moved to 2019, it's a different story. Bo Nix has had his moments, but once you take him out of the comfort of Jordan Hare, really, what has he done? Absolutely nothing. Now, the running game, a lot of fans and experts have said, has been underutilized. They have Tank Bigsby coming back. He looks primed to have a breakout year. The offensive line, I think, was the biggest issue under the Malzahn regime, because they didn't recruit O-line at all, particularly offensive tackle, and it really set Harsin back in terms of the talent he has on the front end of the offense. Auburn fans and some experts have said that the defensive performance is there, the talent is there. Auburn's going to have one of the best linebacking cores in the SEC, and that the offensive struggles have limited the program's success and the defensive potential because they have to be on the field at all times. So I think finding that, so even if Auburn goes 6-6, 7-5, they have a brutal schedule. If they do that, I think personally, Auburn fans would be happier if we find that we say, okay, this is the direction the offense is going. We see the future. Now we just got to give Harsin time to get his players in there. We're going to have to see what he does with Bo Nix's development, what we're going to see with Tank Bigsby and what he does. There's so many questions surrounding the offense, and I think everyone's just kind of chalking up that Derek Mason is going to be fine with the defense. And so finding that offensive identity is going to be the top priority for Harsin this year. Now, for key games, it's tough because there's a lot of big games on Auburn's schedule. But for me, it boils down to LSU, Texas A&M, and South Carolina. Auburn goes on the road down to Baton Rouge to LSU in week 5. That's going to open up their SEC schedule, and I think the reason I picked this is because one is going to be the first true measuring stick for Harsin in what he's bringing to the SEC, and also, I mean, I'm coming at this as kind of a fan too. This is a huge game because I guess the key for a first-year head coach is to build that rapport, win your fans over. If he goes into Baton Rouge and brings Auburn their first win in Baton Rouge since 1999, he could win over so many fans. He could go 4-8, but if you go and win in LSU, there's going to be fans that's like, hey, that's progress. He broke the streak. Let's sign on to an extension. We saw how friendly Auburn is with extensions anyway. This is going to be a huge game to determine kind of the tone. It's going to be like the tone-setting performance in the SEC for Harsin. Now, A&M. This one's going to be interesting because A&M is going to be that number 2 team probably in the West, depending on if LSU can bounce back. But they're right there. They were number 5 in the country last year. They made a playoff. They were primed to make a playoff run. They're reloading at the quarterback position, but there's a lot of talent on that team. This is going to be – they are where Auburn fans expect Auburn's program to be right now. An up-and-coming program that's going to be competing for SEC title appearances and playoff runs. So Harsin has to go in there and show that he can be competitive and give the Tigers a chance to win. So that's kind of why I picked that one. And then the South Carolina one. So this is interesting. Last year, I thought that South Carolina upset of Auburn really set their season on a path where they can never recover. And honestly, probably literally cost Gus Malzahn his job. It was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back, especially down the stretch. Harsin has to show some progress here, and he needs a win here. You can't lose to South Carolina. You can't lose to another first-year coach in Beamer because the talk is going to be you're an outsider and you're getting, beat down by a new guy. You're getting beat up by the new kid on the block. You're going to have to go to South Carolina and win. And plus, it's even more important this year because the Iron Bowl is right after this game. So Auburn needs to win here to springboard them into one of the toughest Iron Bowls they're going to have to play in a long time. And so when I look at the schedule, break down the wins, I think I see 7-5 here. I think they're going to struggle against the top of the top. They're going to win the games they need to. They should win. And I think 6-6 to 7-5 is probably where you're going to see this Auburn team this year. But if Harsin can find that offensive identity, which should be the motto, I think the Auburn Tigers and their fans will be happy with the season. So let me know. We went through Vandy, South Carolina with Shane Beamer, Josh Heupel with Tennessee, and Brian Harsin with Auburn. So if you're fans of any of these 4 programs or you're on our video, comment below what your expectations for the team is this year and what your expectations are for each of these first-year head coaches this year. What do you need to see to be confident that you guys hired the right guy? If you're just a neutral fan, comment below what y'all think as well. I love interacting with y'all in the comments, and we appreciate all the support. Guys, make sure to subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up. Man, y'all know Monday through Friday, bringing y'all the 2-minute drill right here on our YouTube channel. If you want to catch audio versions of the podcast, make sure to go subscribe on any and all podcast streaming platforms. We got some big content coming up in the next few weeks, so we appreciate any and all support, guys. But for myself, for the Blue Bloods, and the 2-minute drill, we are out.